Hi, we're Steve and Audra, and we appreciate you stopping by to join us for our van life adventures. Over the last several weeks, we've been taking you along with us as we've done some exploring along the Gulf Coast in our self-converted Ford Transit cargo van. From the vibrant old city of New Orleans to quaint little towns along Florida's Panhandle. In this episode, we're wrapping up the trip and heading back to our home base in southern Florida. We continue along the coastal route to some built-up touristy areas, as well as some natural undeveloped areas. We do some biking, check out our state capital, and also stop to see what all the buzz is about at the Texas-sized Buc-ee's gas station. After continuing along scenic Route 30A, we arrived in Panama City Beach. This area has a very different feel than the charming little towns we had just visited. It had a much more commercial, sprawling, tourist trap kind of feel, and is what we think of when we think of the typical spring break beach town. Lots of big beachfront hotels, surf shops, chain restaurants, gimmicky attractions, tour companies, and amusement park rides. We stopped for a couple of hours to check things out. Steve and the Jelly Belly are now buddies. I want a picture with the purple gummy bear.
I want to ride the train.
As with any location, after walking around to see what we could see and snapping a few pictures, we sat down to enjoy some people and pet watching.
Can you spot which of these dogs is not like the others?
So we were debating what rating to give this area. Somewhere between a 2 or a 3. The probably bumps it up a little bit. It does have a lot of free parking, which helps. It's a fun area for families and kids, but not so much our speed.
It feels very touristy, like a tourist trap. It kind of reminds me of the boardwalks of the Northeast, but you're not by the water, the road goes away from the water. It's definitely no seaside, but I would say 3 vans, and only because of the free parking.
We didn't spend a lot of time in Panama City Beach. We had had a long day, and after grabbing a pizza from Little Caesars, we found another Cracker Barrel and got some shut-eye.
I'm now going to attempt to show you how we do things with the fridge to keep the food cold. It's a little bit of a juggling act. We have been trying not to run the fridge too much with our power unit and instead rely on ice. So that means we kind of constantly have to switch things out. So the ice we had melted down to about this much. It melts into this container and we dump the water from this container. We just bought a new bag of ice. So what I'm going to do is now transfer the ice that had been in the fridge. I'm going to put it up in the freezer section. And we actually have this that was from the last bag that's frozen solid in here. So what we can do is actually we like to have cold water to drink. So we have a little bit of cold water that we're going to just put up here, keep that cold. Now, what I have to do, this ice obviously won't fit in the fridge. I pretty much just scoop ice from here into our water jug that goes in the fridge. So I'll do that next. Now I have our water pitcher filled with ice. That'll go on the door of the fridge. When Steve gets back, he's buying refilling our jugs with water at Publix. When he gets back, we'll pour the water in here, and I'll put this on the door of the fridge. That'll keep things nice and cold. Then we'll put what we can fit of this ice in the fridge. Alright, and then also another part of the process is using cold water that we have to fill up all of our insulated water bottles. So we have 4 that we bring with us on our trips, and we'll fill all those up.
now that Steve's brought back the other water, I'll go ahead and fill up the pitcher that's got the ice in it. Steve's filling up more water bottles. Alright, I turned the inverter on so hopefully you can see in the fridge better. As you can see, I've put the big bag of ice in. We have a lot more room now because we had a jug of milk in here, but we just got rid of that. So now it's a matter of packing things up so everything fits. And that's a little bit easier now. I should have recorded earlier when it was a nice big challenge to get everything to fit in here. Alright, so we've still got some meat stuff, some salad stuff, sandwich stuff. Here's the jug of water with the ice. And we're going to put the thermometer back in and check it later to make sure everything's staying cold.
As the day progressed, the weather took a turn for the worse, and the forecast was bleak. Thankfully, up to this point, the weather had been beautiful for us. We decided to make the best of it and continued on our way, headed for Mexico Beach.
We left the Emerald Coast behind and entered the Forgotten Coast, a relatively quiet area with many sections of undeveloped and uninhabited coastline. So this is Mexico Beach. I think it was last year that it got hit by a hurricane, and it's pretty obvious around here that there was a lot of destruction. Looks like there's a lot of things under construction. There's a sign for the pier, and there was no pier there. So I'll have to look into that to see if it was taken out by that storm or not, but definitely kind of sad to see the damage that these storms can do. This was definitely a harsh reality of what a storm can do. The Mexico Beach area was ravaged by Hurricane Michael, a Category 5 storm, in 2018. The storm demolished nearly every Mexico Beach home and business in its path. As you could see, even after a few years, the devastation is still evident. But at the same time, you can also see lots of evidence of the area being rebuilt. So we're going to keep driving. It's pretty rainy today here. We have been really fortunate so far on our trip. When we first started planning our trip, it was calling for all kinds of rain, and then the forecast changed, and it's been beautiful weather since we've been on the road. So today's our first rainy day. Hopefully we'll get through this rain and we'll be able to check out some other things a little bit further east. We're driving along Route 98 east. We're hoping to get out of the rain and see some more things before we finish our trip. Today we're heading towards St. George Island and Apalachicola. So we'll show you what we see and hopefully we'll get out of this rain. A neat little lighthouse. When we're on the road, we try to balance the planned with the unplanned. We try to allow a cushion in our schedule, so if we see areas that look interesting, we can stop and explore. We discover some of the best things this way. Sometimes the things we plan end up being a big flop, and the things we knew nothing about end up being the most interesting or enjoyable experiences. One little place we stumbled upon was Port St. Joe. Oh, there's some cute little shops here, little restaurants.
We spotted this park as we were driving and decided to stop to take a closer look.
It's kind of neat here, all natural, but there are a lot of bugs. I don't think, can you see them? There are like bugs all over under the umbrella.
This was a neat spot, but it was very buggy. We couldn't stand staying for more than a few minutes.
Now we understand why the pavilions are screened in. Bugs everywhere. Historic Apalachicola, oyster capital of the world. Do you see that pile right there? That's a big old pile of oyster shells. Here's the Water Street oyster plant. And lots of oyster shells. Dang. We're now in Apalachicola. We enjoy getting off the main roads and just kind of seeing what's back off the side streets and kind of the real life in different areas. So it's neat just to drive around here a little bit.
This was a cute little town. It's a bummer the weather wasn't better. We skipped a planned detour to St. George Island and also would have enjoyed walking around this town instead of the quick drive-through and brief stop at the Apalachicola City dock. But sometimes you just have to adjust and go with the flow. Here's some of the view you can see along this Route 98, also a scenic route. We stopped at the Crooked River Lighthouse in Carabel, Florida. This had been a spot on our potential list of things to see, but we didn't realize our route took us right by it. We made a quick stop to check it out. The lighthouse tower, built in 1895 and restored in 2007, is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. This historic 103-foot lighthouse is the tallest on the Forgotten Coast. We didn't climb the lighthouse, but it was nice to see it up close and to peek inside.
I think we're on the St. Mark's Heritage Trail, railroad trail. I guess it used to be a railroad track. I'm surprised there's no railroad tracks here, but I think it's 16 miles. It goes from Tallahassee all the way to the Gulf.
This is my kind of bike path. Straight, flat, paved. The only thing better if somebody else would be doing the pedaling.
That's what he uses me for. Sometimes I give him a free ride.
I'll do this. I call it a power boost.
I don't know if you can see it, but he hangs on. Makes me do the work. I don't mind, for a little bit at least. It's nice to get a little exercise. We've been in the van for a few hours today. And she passes on the right, everybody. Leaves him in the dust. Do you see Steve anywhere? Oh, there he is, way back there.
Steve is a bit of a grandpa when it comes to bike riding. Oh, wait, am I allowed to say that? I always enjoy discovering the fauna of the area, so of course I had to stop for a closer look when I saw these flowers and cool moss.
After our bike ride, we arrived in Tallahassee.
So since we were driving through the area, we had to check out our state's capital. This is Tallahassee. Also a little surprised to find out that there are actually hills in Tallahassee. There aren't many hills in Florida. After making some dinner in the van, we took a little walk around town to check out the capital. We were a little nervous about the ominous clouds overhead, but thankfully we were able to avoid getting rained on.
We were pleasantly surprised to find that our state capitol is an actual building, not a double-wide pulled by a monster redneck truck.
I'm so proud of our kitty. She's doing so much better this trip. We've been opening different doors and it's during the day and the curtains are up and she's actually not hiding. So there's hope. Even if you have a kitty that's a little shy and scared, she might get more comfortable. He or she might get more comfortable.
Spent the night at another Cracker Barrel, one of the more prettier Cracker Barrels we've ever been to. And got everything packed up and we're heading home.
So we're cruising along the I-10, and there's some other van lifers. Always fun to see. There's our girl's new favorite spot. We're glad she finally got comfortable being up on the bed. A little bit more comfortable than where she's been before, either on the hard chair or on the floor, or hiding. We're making our attempt at being healthy today. Making sure to get an apple in. We've been trying to buy fresh fruits and vegetables as we're traveling along. It's easy just to kind of eat junk and whatever is easy, so we're really making an effort to make sure we eat healthy. We haven't actually watched the video yet, but we've heard Kara and Nate, who have their big YouTube channel, talk about Buc-ee's. I think they did a whole episode on it. We're gonna pull in now and see what all the buzz is about, if it's worth the hype. So we've heard they make a lot of their food on site, and I believe you can stay overnight if you are a RV or a van lifer. It's a pretty big gas place. There was not a price out for their gas, so now we're going to see how much that is.
$2.59. Don't mind if I do.
That's actually lower than we've had anywhere, isn't it, so far this trip?
It's low for this neck of the woods.
Did we get anything cheaper than that the whole trip then?
I don't think we've gotten anything cheaper.
So,
Score.
a plus for Buc-ee so far.
And to top everything off, Discover Card is running a 5% cash back on gasoline for the next few months, so that helps out. And we're not getting paid to say that, so Discover Card, you owe us.
We try to save whenever we can. You good girl, huh? You good girl. Are you gonna go back to sleep, huh? You gonna go back to sleep? Huh? You doing that? You're such a nut. You're a nut. Oh, it smells really good.
Can you guys smell that?
This place is what would happen if a truck stop and a Cracker Barrel had a 12-pound baby.
We were surprised to find out that they had a large selection of home decor. And they had a pretty incredible variety of food too, which did not come as a surprise.
Look at all that.
We did get some coffee for the road. We had several more hours to go. We needed a little pick-me-up for the drive ahead, and the prices for coffee and other drink options were pretty cheap. Steve usually drinks his coffee black, but he gets a fun flavor when he knows I want some. Oh, that went over. Oh, man.
Well, that was an experience. That place was hopping. Prices were a little bit on the more expensive side, but they were busy.
Coffee price was good though, right?
Yeah, coffee was not bad.
Cheaper than some other places.
I've never seen that much beef jerky in one place. That was neat. Want to dig a little bit deeper to see if they offer any type of overnight parking or not. The clerk we spoke to said they don't, which is contradictory to what you heard.
I think Karen and Nate spent the night there.
So anyway, we might want to dig a little bit deeper on that.
So our trip is coming to an end. We're almost back to our home base. We thought we'd take just a couple minutes to talk about what our favorite highlights were from the trip, and also some of the things that we learned that we thought might be helpful for someone who's traveling like we are. So the highlight for sure at this part of our trip was driving along the coastal highways along the Gulf Coast. It's a really neat opportunity to kind of just take your time driving through that area, because there's so many little towns and things like that along 30A and some other parts of that scenic highway area.
What I enjoyed the most as kind of an aspiring filmmaker and film buff was Seaside, where they filmed the Truman Show. I can understand why they chose that area to film. It has a film set feel to it, and it just was a neat area to explore. Even if they hadn't filmed there, it is a neat little area.
Yeah, we definitely recommend it. And then there's also, those other towns along the same area, all close to each other. They're all very unique. It's just kind of fun to drive through and experience, even if you don't have a lot of time. And then for me, the other highlight was definitely the dune and lakes area, where all those lakes were kind of along the dunes. And for me, the area that we found one evening between Santa Rosa and Navarre, no, actually it was called the Santa Rosa area. It was between Navarre and Pensacola. All those dunes that we were driving through, I just thought was really fun and just kind of a unique feel. We don't have that, in all of Florida, obviously. A lot of areas it's just kind of more flat. So that was really cool. Then I know for you, another thing that we talked about was the parks.
Right. I think one of the things we're finding out in these travels is just to do a random search for area parks. And so far, I would say we're batting, I don't know, 80-85%. The parks that we find are neat. They're nestled in. You got usually great view. Usually, pretty private. It's never too busy.
A quiet spot to kind of make food or kind of hang out and chill for a little bit.
Some may even have power if you need to charge up your laptops. They usually always have nice restroom facilities, which is a bonus.
We can wash dishes if we need to,
right,
since we don't have a sink. So that kind of brings us to the next thing. Some of the things that were maybe more of a challenge this trip are things we've been learning. I think one is kind of what Steve mentioned. We did have a challenge this time with trying to balance our power usage and keeping our laptops charged up. I don't think we went below 50% on the Delta this time, which is, we probably could have gone lower, but trying to conserve that. We did, like Steve said, we found outlets at some parks, different places where we could charge up. One of the things we're running into now, well, we're also trying to find Wi-Fi whenever we can, and we actually ran out of data on this trip. I made the mistake on my laptop. I had turned off our cloud storage, and the computer restarted and it turned it back on, and I didn't realize. So we had been on the mobile hotspot with our phone, and it was trying to upload all of our files, and we quickly used up our data. So that's a word of warning. So we actually had to buy more data for our phone, which is like $5 I think for 2 gigs. And then we've been really trying to use free Wi-Fi. So I think this time what seemed to work well was libraries, Starbucks. Another way that we found Wi-Fi was simply just driving through an area that was kind of more popular and looking for any open Wi-Fi signals. So we were in Pensacola, for instance, one night, and there were some different restaurants that had free Wi-Fi. So we basically just pulled over, parked in the parking lot for a little bit, and did some quick work when it worked. Sometimes it doesn't always work so great, so you just have to kind of try it out. If not, try somewhere else. Was there anything else with the power or Wi-Fi?
In general, we're still figuring things out regarding power. Trying to juggle our power needs, versus what the Ecoflow Delta can supply. Using our fridge is a bit of a juggle.
We've been using it mainly as a cooler.
Yeah, buying ice and
right.
Keeping it cold like that. We had a little bit of a snafu at the very beginning. If you remember, the part of it was our problem. The way we had things connected was a bit of a mistake. But then,
thankfully, it wasn't a costly mistake.
Yeah,
could have been.
Everything seems to be working now as it should, which is good. But whenever you run the inverter for anything, whether it's the refrigerator or a laptop, it can chew up your power pretty quick. So it's a juggle, trying to use whatever energy you have efficiently.
And we try to plug in other devices into the van itself when we're driving too, so we don't have to use the Delta for that. And I think once we get some more solar panels and put them up on the roof, that'll make a big difference. So that's that. Something else we showed you was filling up water jugs at Publix or Walmart. I think it's about like 35 cents a gallon. We know the water's good then, and that's come in really handy. We just have our jugs that we've been refilling. Definitely has been a little bit more of a hassle over time not having a sink, so we're looking forward to getting that installed.
When we finally get around to installing the sink and having running water, that'll be a bit of a game changer for us.
For this trip, Steve actually discovered something good for our hygiene, since we don't have the sink or a shower.
So we went into a Walmart to use the restroom, and we saw a sign posted that said a family restroom in the back of the store. So we thought, all right, we'll go check it out. And it turns out that that's pretty nice. It's a single room and really spacious, and it's not too busy. Usually the back of the store, at least it wasn't for us. So it gives you an opportunity to get freshened up in some privacy and not feel rushed or feel like there's somebody waiting for for the restroom. So, hot tip, look for family restrooms.
Right, a little easier to brush your teeth and just wash your face, do whatever you, yeah. A little more convenient. And as you maybe saw also, we used the beach showers to wash our hair and do whatever. That's a little more awkward, but hey, we realized you do what you got to do to make it work, and it's not that big of a deal. I think it all worked out fine.
Right. If you can get past perhaps somebody looking at you funny, you know, putting shampoo in your hair. I don't know, maybe it's not that uncommon, but anyway, for me, it was a little different. So we kind of quickly do it.
Right, but I don't think anybody seemed to.
No, I'm sure it's not.
Stare or whatever.
I'm sure a lot of people do that, especially in the really warm, hot summer months.
But anyway, overall, this trip was really great. It was nice to get away, kind of figure things out more with the van. I think the cat's getting a lot more comfortable and doing really great. So, I don't know. Glad we did this one.
Yep.
Glad that we did New Orleans and then all these beaches in Florida.
The weather was pretty good overall. We had a couple rainy parts of the day, the back end of the trip. But outside of that, the temperature was fantastic. It was comfortable during the day, and it would dip down to, I don't know, maybe 60s maybe.
I think the very first part of the trip it was down in the 40s, but over after that it was in the 60s.
Which
and
it's very, at that temperature, it's very comfortable in the van.
And we're glad to have the Max Air fan working again. That was great, especially for white noise. So everything's been going great. What's next up for us? We're gonna be working on the van again, trying to finish up the kitchen before we travel again. We hope you'll tune in for the next episode. And if you haven't already, as always, please subscribe. It helps us out. Comment, hit that like button. We'd love to hear from you. We really appreciate you guys that have been watching all along. And we hope to see you next week.
See you then.
There's your banana peel.
Historic Apalachicola, oyster capital of the world.
Down a little bit. Down. Straight.
Come on, just talk.
It's now a trail.
You're gonna stay with it, are
You
you?
moved your arm. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna start.
No. It's usually pretty quiet, at least it was for us in the back of the store. So it gives you kind of a private time to, dang it, ran out of speed.
Oh, I thought you said it ran out of space.
No.
Your battery running out?
Yeah.
Beep boop, beep boop, beep boop.